Hey guys, it's your average middle-aged American back again with another reaction video. This one is coming from Alana, I believe is her name, from Adventures in Naps. And she's going to tell us about the UK's craziest animal laws. Should be interesting to compare to America. If you're new to my channel, it's anything and everything that interests me as an average middle-aged American male, including international travel, learning about other countries and cultures, learning what other people think about America, organized thoroughly under playlists. And I'd appreciate you subscribing if you haven't subscribed already. Doesn't cost you anything, helps me out. And anyway, enough jibber jabber. Let's see what she has to say.
The UK is home to some very, how do I say this, interesting and unique laws. But what about laws specifically around pets and animals and wildlife? Hi everyone, it's me. My name is Alana and I'm a Canadian, but I have been living here in the UK for the last 8 years. When I saw these laws, I knew I had to share them with you guys. I couldn't believe they were true. So have a seat, get a cup, put your feet up, and without further ado, let's go. Let's start off with barking. Yes, the activity, barking. Anyone here from Lancashire or nearby or have been to? If you are caught inciting your dog to bark in Lancashire, you can face a fine of up to £5,000. Yes.
Inciting your dog to bark. So you're mad at somebody and you're in the park or something, and then you rile your dog up to get him to bark at somebody. You should be fined. I don't know about £5,000. That's an interesting law.
Yes. So this one stood out to me because first of all, £5,000, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And number two, the concept of inciting your dog to bark is just it's a very funny concept to me. I mean, who doesn't love winding up the dog? My other question was, I wonder how this is proven. Like, does an officer or a warden or whoever, like, not infiltrates, whoever enforces this law, do they have to see it happening? Like, do they have to see you standing in your living room at your dog, like winding up the dog, getting the dog to bark, getting the dog to bark? Or maybe if a neighbor complains that you do it every week and you get a dog in the back garden and you're having a barbecue and you're constantly riling up, getting the dog to bark.
That's true. I mean, even if it's not intentional, they didn't say intentional. I mean, I've got neighbors, we all have pools and they have pool parties and they've got a bunch of little dogs and, they're throwing balls around and all that, which is all fun and games, until, as long as it's not late at night. And those dogs are barking. I mean, obviously when a dog's home alone and he's barking, and you can hear it, at a neighbor's house or something, that's not a big deal. But if they're outside and you're outside, if I'm in my pool and they're in their pool and their dogs are barking, obviously I can hear that. So that's an interesting concept. It may not have to be intentional. Just the fact that you're not stopping it from happening. We have noise ordinances, being technically where I live. Um, it's a violation of noise if you can hear past your property line, which is absurd because, I mean, you could be in your backyard tending to your flowers and sneeze, and somebody's going to hear it, next door. But the idea is that people, aren't having rock concerts in their backyard every day.
I don't know, but just a heads up, if you're in Lancashire, don't do it, because that's a lot of money. Next up, let's talk about hedgehog protection. So, completely unrelated, I wanted a hedgehog as a pet when I was a kid in Canada. They're considered exotic pets, and my mom said no. So, I cried. Now, here in the UK, I did not realize hedgehogs have some legal protection. They are considered wildlife. They're endangered wildlife. I've never seen a wild hedgehog, but I just really want to. So under the Wildlife and Countryside Act, it is illegal to kill or capture wild hedgehogs. Also, it's
Okay.
illegal to release a captive bred hedgehog into the wild. That's also, don't do it. They're also listed under the Wild Mammals Protection Act, which prohibits cruel treatment to hedgehogs. The more you know. There is a popular myth online that I read in so many articles. People say it's illegal to own a hedgehog. That's not really the case. It's illegal to capture a wild hedgehog unless you are a professional under certain provisions, whatever. For a regular person, it's illegal to just go capture a wild hedgehog and keep it, obviously, or do cruel treatment to it, of course. But you could own a captive bred hedgehog as long as it is procured in the right way and you have the proper, like, living set up to provide a good life for it. Does that make sense?
So the hedgehog must be kind of a UK thing. I didn't realize that. I mean, I've heard of hedgehogs, and obviously I don't live in the UK. Says here on the old interweb that there are no wild hedgehogs in North or South America. Now, no would be impossible. I'm sure there's, some very small number. But what is interesting is it says that in the 50s, there were 36 million hedgehogs estimated in Europe, mostly British. And now there's less than a million. 879,000 is the estimate. So that is quite a difference. So yeah, they kind of are endangered, I guess. Never really thought of a hedgehog being endangered, but I guess it is. See, this is what I love about my channel and the interweb and YouTube, is that you learn something every day. I had no intention to learn about hedgehogs when I woke up this morning, but here I am. Now at my next party, I can go, that makes me think about the old hedgehog. And do you realize that right now there's like 2% as many hedgehogs as there used to be? People look at me like I'm crazy, like they always do. There you go.
Number 3, we gotta talk about cows. Now, according to the Metropolitan Streets Act, you cannot drive cows down the road between 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. without permission from the police commissioner. Any person driving or conducting cattle in contravention that doesn't sound right, of this section shall be liable to a penalty not exceeding 10 shillings for each head of cattle so driven or conducted. I gotta be honest, not really sure what the conversion rate between a shilling and now money. This law makes sense for the time. I think this one said 1867. Of course, you don't want a huge herd of cattle in the middle of the street, busy day, rush hour traffic, and you got a bunch of cattle. Fair. But imagine getting fined 10 shillings per head. And if you had like a decent sized herd, that's gotta be a lot of money. Hi, just popping in to tell you that I live stream on Twitch. I get so many messages and comments and stuff from people saying that they've watched my videos for years. First off, God bless ya. But they didn't know that I live stream on Twitch. So this is me saying yes, I live stream on Twitch twice a week. It's free if you...
All right, guys. I've looked at the demographics of the people looking at my videos, and I have to know. Because I've never, ever done it. So I need to know how many of you live stream on Twitch. Do you watch it? Do you produce? Well, I don't even know what you would call it. Do you watch it or do you create it yourselves? Or do you even know what Twitch is? Please let me know. I want to start getting a feel for people that are watching my videos. Does anybody in here I need to know yes or no, because I don't, just not answering doesn't help me. I need to know. Do you even know what Twitch is? Have you ever gone on there and created a live stream, or have you ever gone on there and watched a live stream? I don't even know where to start with Twitch. It's just not my thing yet, but you never know. You know, I'm half a century old and I just started a YouTube channel last month, so who knows? But let me know. I'm curious because according to my demographics, I'm betting a majority of my watchers have not. And if you haven't subscribed already, just subscribe. Come on, doesn't cost you anything. Doesn't hurt you, doesn't mess you up. It's not like I'm putting out 30 videos a day. I appreciate it.
If you want to get involved in the community, join in on the live streams, twitch.tv/adventures and apps. Hope to see you there. That's all I gotta say. Come hang out. That's all. Number 4, we are talking about dogs versus cats. Now, this actually started this whole video. We were talking in our Discord, unrelated. If you support me on Twitch, Patreon, or YouTube memberships, we have a chat room on Discord. This came about in the Discord, and I said, there's literally no.
All right. Let me know. Do you go on Discord? Do you have your own channel? Do you talk on other channels? Have you ever even heard of Discord? Let me know.
No way this can be true.
I feel so old.
And here we are. It started this video. Basically, the idea is if your dog harms someone, if they bite someone, if they jump up on someone, they do something to someone, you are liable. So that injured person could claim compensation from you. They could go to the police. There could be a police investigation into you because what
That's
your
standard.
dog did to someone. You are also liable if your dog attacks or injures another animal in the UK.
That's
and that
standard.
seems all like fairly normal, right? Like I
Right.
think that's fair. You own an animal and your animal causes harm or damage to someone, it's your fault. Fair.
Unless it's a cat.
But what about cats? Cats have this thing called the right to roam, so they're not seen the same as dogs, and thus they cannot be held responsible like dogs. That means you as a person, as an owner, are not legally responsible if your cat is out roaming and does something to someone or does something to another animal, because these cats have the right to roam. I couldn't believe it. And the law...
I think that's the same in America. I mean, if I had to guess, I know that leash laws apply to dogs in America, or at least where I live, and they don't apply to cats. And I think that a cat is more of a predator than a dog is. So, and obviously the size difference matters too. I was looking for my cat. It keeps meowing. There she is. So, you know, obviously a cat isn't going to kill somebody, where a dog could, especially a child. Look at this kitty cat. Look at this kitty cat. Say hi. Say hello. Say, I love my daddy. Now, this cat never goes outside. She does not go outside. She's a princess. She gets anything she wants. She has 2 different feeding stations with dry food and wet food. She has 2 different water fountains. And she has 3 litter boxes. But her mommy says she's not spoiled. Her mommy says she's not spoiled. Guess how old she is? Put it down in the comment section. I'll tell you later. Guess how many years old this kitty cat is? Isn't she cute? Look at her. Look at her. She has the right to roam all over our house. However, since she was a baby, she was trained. She does not get on any hard surface, which means she doesn't get on the counters. She doesn't get on the tables. You know, she doesn't get on dressers. She doesn't get on any hard surfaces. She's allowed on beds and couches. Oh, and she has 4 of her own beds. don't you? Rabbit feet, rabbit feet, rabbit feet, rabbit feet. So, guess how old she is? Here, I'll give you a close up. Meow. Wow. How old am I? Uh-oh. 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 Little girl. So yeah, cats should have more rights than dogs.
I couldn't believe it. And the law
You have
signifies
the
that
right to
cats
roam.
cannot be held under the same standards as dogs, which is wild. But if you have a cat or a dog, or maybe both, or multiples of both, that might make sense to you. Cats definitely have a different kind of personality than dogs. And totally unrelated, leave a comment down below. Are you team cat or team dog? I love all animals. I'll be honest, if you have a pet and I come over, I'm gonna spend the whole time trying to get that pet to love me because I literally can't help myself. But if I had a choice, dogs. Dogs all day, every day. I can't wait to have a dog. Everybody asks me, you need to get a dog. We don't have a garden in this property and I want a fairly large sized dog. So we have to wait until we move. This has nothing to do with this video.
Yeah, we're team both. We don't have any dogs right now, but I can see a dog in the future. Dogs are a little more to deal with. But depends on your work schedule and all that. We have a front yard and a backyard. Our backyard's fenced in, so. And actually in America and maybe other places, I don't know, they even have doggy poo services. So you can actually get on a schedule and somebody will come and clean all your dog poo up out of your yard so you don't have to deal with it. Now, here it's a law that if an animal, poops in someone else's yard, that the owner has to clean it up. Um, but if your own animal poops in your own yard, then you have to clean it up. But you can hire a poop service to come and clean it every week, which I would do if I had a dog. But my kitty cat's a good girl. Guess how old she is? Come on, put it down in the comment section. But you gotta do it now, because I'm going to tell you in a minute, so I don't want any cheaters.
But cats or dogs? Leave a comment down below.
Both.
And with that last point, I want to talk about driving tests. So this also came up in our Discord when we were talking about like cats versus dogs. Dogs, you're liable. Cats, you're not. And someone in the community brought up a story that they knew someone who was doing their driving test and they hit a cat, which traumatic. That's gonna be a core memory that will stay with you for a long time. So they hit the cat and they pull over. Like, check the cat. They're obviously probably a little bit freaked out, but they pull over and it was an automatic fail for their test. Now, I couldn't find a law around this specifically, but I think it perhaps depends on where you take your driver's test, or even perhaps down to which driving instructor or examiner that you have. Who
I mean, it all depends. I mean, if the cat's laying in the middle of the road and you hit it, then yeah. But if a cat darts out in front of your car and the reaction time is quick, I mean, there's nothing you can do. And it does happen. But, that's why I'll never have an outside cat. But yeah, this shouldn't be an automatic fail. Now, if a person wasn't paying attention or whatever. Yeah, we have a lot of squirrels in our neighborhood. And yeah, I'm constantly cruising through our neighborhood with my foot on the brake, because they'll just come to the edge of the street and kind of look around and you don't know what they're going to do. So you tap your horn and then next thing you know, you're going like 5 miles an hour. And I've had it where they just jump right out in front of your car and end up being between the wheels. And you got to look in your rearview mirror and see if they're okay. But yeah, we have a lot of animals, a lot of squirrels get in the streets, some cats, but a lot of squirrels.
Who may just automatically fail you because you've pulled over and they've not instructed you to do so. I'm not totally sure. However, I did read when it comes to like pulling over when you hit something, there is specifications. So you are not legally required to stop if you hit a cat. RIP to all cats out there. This video is quite dark,
That
isn't it?
sucks.
The UK Road Traffic Act requires drivers to report accidents involving specific animals, not cats, but if you hit a dog, horse, cow, pig, goat, sheep, donkey, or mule, if you hit all of them in one go, then you need to probably reevaluate what you're doing with your life. Cats, however, are not included in this list, so you have no legal obligation to.
Honestly, it's because cats are crazy. I mean, that's just what it is. They're just crazy. And if you don't train them properly from the time that they're kittens, they will be crazy. I've seen some crazy cats. And I think that's why cats get such a bad rap. Is I don't think that they're trained properly. I think some are just born crazy, and that's possible. But this whole idea where cats, chew up stuff and claw everything and claw people and chase people and, are dirty and get all over the counters. No, my cat doesn't do any of that. It's all about training and giving them what they need, a scratching post and, that kind of stuff. Catnip, kitty crack.
Stop or report such an incident, which is kind of wild. I guess with cat, you get that like free to roam, right? So cats are like, yeah, I can do whatever I want and you're not liable. I can just roam. But with that, if you get hit by a car, nothing really is going to happen. So I didn't intend for this video to be a lot about death, but here we are. Number 6, taxis versus dogs. It is illegal for a taxi in London to transport a dog with rabies. Had no idea. Can't say I've ever been in that situation. But to be honest, seems kind of fair. It seems very specific, kind of like something happened
Oh, I'm
that
sure.
caused this law to become a thing, because it does seem like a really specific situation, but the more you know. Let's talk about the royal household. Now, did you know it is illegal for one of your pets to mate with a pet or animal from the royal household? Now, this law dates back to before George I, and guess what? It resulted in executions. Huh? This, of course, was before the death penalty was abolished. Nowadays, you're probably more likely to get a fine. Although, to be completely honest, I'm not really sure what kind of pets King Charles has. Of course, this makes you think of the former queen, the late queen. How do you say that? Late queen? The corgis, right? So if you got caught that one of your pets, one of your dogs, mated with the queen's corgis, you were going to be in trouble. Next up, talking about laws and dogs, we have to talk about poop bags. Yes. That is the first time I've ever said a poop bag on YouTube. In Daventry Council, Northamptonshire, you can be fined up to, guess, £100 if you are caught walking your dog without a poop bag. I wanted to see something local.
Good.
I live in Kent. I read that Canterbury Council will fine you £80, a little bit cheaper. However, the stipulation is you have to have at least 2 poop bags. I guess one's not enough, right? What if your dog, you're out for a while and your dog's like, hey, we're doing this again. You only brought 1 bag? £80. I don't know how often people are getting checked. I don't know how many times like there's like some sort of warden out there is like, empty out your pockets, let me see how many poop bags you got. But I do think it would make you second guess leaving the house without one. Number 9, let's talk about dogs in cars. So did you know you must restrain your dog in your car? Do you do that? Because I know some people who don't do that. So you have to restrain them in some sort of proper situations.
I don't know anybody that does that. Unless they're maybe in a cage, in a kennel. The problem is, and this drives me absolutely crazy. These people that have these dogs where they sit in their lap while they're driving. And I don't think people really realize what's going to happen if they get in a car accident, even a minor car accident. They're going to kill that dog because between the airbag going off and them crushing them into the steering wheel. So if you have an airbag, that's going to probably kill the dog. And if you don't have an airbag, you're going to crush that dog into the steering wheel when you hit something because it's in your lap. And this other thing where people have their windows rolled all the way down and the dog is literally 40% of the dog is hanging out the window. That drives me crazy too. But I don't know how you could restrain a dog in a car without hurting it or without it hurting himself or without it going crazy. I think most people just kind of block off the back seat and let the dog kind of wander around the back seat. Even police dogs aren't restrained. I mean, they're in a cage, a large cage. It's the size of the whole back of the back seat of the SUV, but they're not restrained. They're not, you know, they're not in a harness or anything that's attached to the vehicle. It's a weird law.
So like a carrier or like a dog seat belt or something, you have to restrain them in a proper way or you can face penalties. This one actually makes sense because if you are in a crash and you've got like a fairly decent sized dog or really a dog of any size, that dog is going to become a projectile. Wow, I really didn't intend this video to be so grim. That dog becomes a projectile and you're all targets in that vehicle. So it actually makes perfect sense. However,
I think it's more for the dog distracting the driver or getting under the driver's feet, that kind of thing. I don't know that it's about doggy missiles.
I know loads of people who don't do this. You know, the dog just jumps in the back. Maybe they're really well behaved and they lie down on the seat or whatever, but they're not strapped in. They're not necessarily in a carrier. So I thought this one was very interesting. So just a heads up, maybe get yourself a little doggy seatbelt. Not even really sure what those look like. Number 10, we have pigs. Anybody watching, do you have a pig? The animal sort and not the human sort. Under the Town Police Clauses Act, you cannot build a pigsty in front of your house where it is visible. That's very specific. Where it is visible, it's gotta be hidden somewhere. Which honestly, fair. If my neighbor had a pigsty just out in the open in the front of the house, just like I could sit in my living room and I could look at the window with my morning coffee and I could see this pigsty, I'd probably be annoyed. I don't know how many situations in which that would be occurring, but this is a law, and if you have a pigsty, it needs to be hidden. Number 11.
Do you guys have this thing with these potbelly pigs becoming a fad? There's a lot of places in America where people have pigs as pets. Not a pigsty, not a farm, not in the country. Normal people are having these potbelly pigs as pets, just like a dog. They sleep in the house and wander around the house and everything. Some of them wear clothes. Do you guys have that, or is that an American thing?
Has to do with salmon. Ooh, fancy. The Salmon Act of 1986 makes it illegal to be suspicious while handling salmon. Yes. This one does make sense when you look at it for like a second longer, but the wording suspicious just makes me laugh. So funny. All I can picture is a guy standing beside the ocean holding a salmon and looking shifty. But the idea, of course, was aimed at poachers. So if you were caught handling salmon and you looked a bit fishy, then perhaps you might be investigated and you might be found that you're illegally poaching and all this fun stuff. But yeah, suspicious or suspiciously handling, hilarious. Very funny. Next up, number 12, if my counting has been correct. If not, don't worry about it. This one is dogs versus livestock. Now, there is a law that prohibits dogs from worrying livestock. So this would be like causing a nuisance to livestock. The
Stressing
wording is
them out.
worrying, which is kind of cute, actually, like worrying livestock. Harassing livestock, you would be faced with fines if you were caught. Worrying stood out to me. I thought that was a funny choice of word. But yeah, you don't want your dog causing chaos to livestock. It could be a huge herd of sheep or cows or who knows what. Like, don't be annoying. But interestingly, this law applies to dogs worrying livestock, but there's no mention of cats because cats.
It's a little odd because in America, and I would have imagined the UK, a lot of farmers, cattlemen, ranchers, they use dogs to control livestock, to gather up cows or to gather up sheep. They're farm dogs. Hmm.
Cats have a right to roam, and cats apparently can do whatever they want. And honestly, they kind of act like they know that that's true.
They do.
Number 13, this one's called Don't Drink and Ride. Now, I think most of us are aware that you can't drink and drive. I hope. But did you know it's also illegal to drink and ride? Yes, that's right. Ride a horse or a cow. This law also covers being in charge of. So you can't be drunk and in charge of horses or in charge of cattle on any type of like roadway, highway, carriageway, any of it. Imagine you're leaving Weatherspoons. Okay, you're a person that goes to Weatherspoons. Not me, but hey, you do you. You're leaving Weatherspoons one night, it's closing, your feet, like the bottom of your shoes are a bit sticky from the floor. Do you know what I mean? You've had 9 pints and they were all like 2 pounds. And you leave Weatherspoons and you've got your cow, perhaps a horse outside, ready to take you home. Don't do it. Number 14, we are talking about whales, sturgeons, and swans. Oh my. Now, this comes from a statute, guess what year? Did you guess 1324?
Wow.
So this was under the reign of Edward II, and it basically stated that a lot of sea life were property of the crown. So the original law stated that the king shall receive the wreck of the sea throughout the realm, whales and sturgeons taken in the sea or elsewhere within the realm, except in certain places privileged by the king. So this law is still in effect today. It's a little bit different. It doesn't cover just whales and sturgeons, but dolphins and porpoises. You know the word I'm trying to say. When they are captured within 3 miles of the UK. This also covers swans. So I had heard that the Queen owns all the swans. Not totally true, but it's regurgitated all over the place on the internet. But the actual wording is that all unmarked mute swans in open waters are considered property of the crown. So this law dates back, well, it's very old. But it was actually more to do with the fact that swans were a delicacy. Hadn't really thought about that before. Now, of course, it's a bit more about conservation. I don't know how many people are eating the swans, but that's what it used to be. So current day ownership marks are made by way of a small numbered leg ring, but all of the crown's birds are left unmarked. Apart from the crown, there are only 3 organizations that are allowed rights to the swans, which is kind of wild. Abbotsbury Swanery was granted the right of ownership in the 14th century, and 2 London livery companies, the Vinters and the Dyers, held similar rights since the 15th century. So the idea that the Queen, or rather now the crown, owns all the swans is not true. All of the unmarked swans, but there are very few like historical organizations that have some rights as well. Number 15, we have.
I have no reference for this, so I don't even understand. But don't you find it a little weird that a family owns all of something that is wild? I mean, like the swans. I'm sure there's a whole bunch of other laws on the books that, the royal family owns this and this and that and this and that, but is it not in today's world, is that not a bit weird that things that are in the wild? I mean, it'd be like saying the president of the United States owns all bald eagles. I mean, not criticizing. I'm just asking, is that still kind of the way people think? I mean, is that a standard idea that, I get it that there's the royal jewels and all that. Whatever. Those are material things that are passed down from generation to generation or whatever. But the fact that they own wildlife that's not on their property, am I crazy? I mean, talk to me. Is that just you guys just accept it as like, okay, that's just normal? And what else is there? Tell me some other weird things that they own that literally could have come from another country or something. You know, I mean, if they own birds that could fly across borders, it's just odd to me. And I'm sure it's just because I'm American. I wasn't, born into that idea. But let me know. That's an interesting concept.
Have to talk about pet burial. Yes, we
Mm.
thought this video couldn't get any darker. Did you know it is illegal to bury a pet anywhere else other than the home it lived in? So for instance, your dog dies. You go to someone else's home and bury it in their backyard? Illegal. And one of the stipulations in this law is that you have to own the home. So say you're renting a house, your dog dies, RIP, you want to bury him in the back garden. You can't. Illegal. I thought that one was pretty wild. It's not necessarily something I've ever thought about before, but I am now. I'm sure there are other ways to how do I put this lightly, dispose of animal remains, probably through your local vet and that kind of stuff. But if you are looking for a burial birth, if you're looking for a burial situation, you gotta follow the law. It's gotta be in your own home that you own, nobody else's home, and you can't rent. Number 16, we have badger baiting. Now,
So on the burial thing, we cremate our pets. I do know people that bury animals in their yard, and they do own their home. Um, we cremate ours and have little, containers with their names on them. I don't want to think about it, but yeah, and a lot of people bury them in their yard. I always think about if another dog digs it up or whatever, I'd rather just have it cremated, and then you can, if you move, you can take them with you. Oh,
I
and I was gonna say, I guess you guys don't have pet cemeteries, and I guess it's not legal. Some people will cremate their animal, especially old people, and then when they pass, their animal goes with them, in their vault or whatever you call it. So if you're in a cemetery and you've been cremated, they have those vaults that, are smaller obviously than a grave. They're like usually in a wall, and it's almost like a locker kind of thing, with like a marble face on the front of it or whatever. A lot of old people will just have their, ask their relatives to bury their, put their pets in there with them, if they've been cremated. So if they're cremated and they're in an urn, and then the pet gets cremated and it's in a, small box or a small urn, and they'll just stick it in the same little cubby with them. So I guess that's illegal too in the UK. It may be illegal in America, but people do it.
have never seen a badger in real life. I'd never seen one in Canada. It hadn't really even come up into my realm of daily life. I didn't actually know if we had badgers, so I did do a quick Google. Apparently almost everybody has badgers, which I did not know. But in North America, there was really no conversation about badgers, but there is here. So under the Protection of Badgers Act 1992, it's illegal to bait, harm, or disturb badgers or their sets. Unrelated note, I didn't know what a set was. Never heard that word before. So from my understanding, the UK has a history with badgers. Y'all have a long-standing history with badgers, but in recent years they've really sort of locked down on what you are allowed to do and not allowed to do with badgers, where before it was kind of like a free-for-all bloodbath. I thought some of the stipulations in this law were very interesting. So if you are convicted of an offense or offenses under this act, you are liable to a term of imprisonment not exceeding 6 months per offense, and or a fine not exceeding approximately £5,000. And in more horrific news, under this act, any dog used in the commission of an offense may be destroyed. So, yes. What a lighthearted, fun video. As the offender under this act, you could also be banned or disallowed to have dogs in the future. Number 17, let's talk about squirrel.
So I guess in America, badgers are protected, but they can be trapped during trapping season. And apparently they're pretty vicious, if you come up on them. And, fun fact, they eat rattlesnakes, which I don't know if you have rattlesnakes in the UK, but rattlesnakes are deadly snakes that rattle. They make a noise. They have a little hollow thing on their tail on the end of the snake that rattles. That's their way of warning you to get away. Badgers eat them, and they're unaffected by the venom unless they're struck on the nose. So that's interesting. I mean, a rattlesnake can kill a person, but it can't kill a badger unless it gets them on the nose. Right on the nose.
Right. Now, this was something that really stood out to me because as a Canadian, this is not something that we care about or do in this way. As per the Wildlife and Countryside Act, it is illegal to release a gray squirrel into the wild or allow one to escape after capture or keep one in captivity. So this is all about gray squirrels. Basically, you can't do anything with them. You can't keep them, you can't release them, you can't let them escape, none of that. Any gray squirrel caught must be humanely destroyed. Yes, this video, I've already said it, it's very grim and morbid. If you catch a gray squirrel, you have to destroy it. However, this stipulates you cannot drown it because that's inhumane and you could be prosecuted. Now, I thought this was really interesting because the gray squirrel in North America actually has a little title. They call it an ecologically essential natural forest regenerator. So because these gray squirrels will bury seeds and nuts and whatever, they can actually regrow forests in North America. So they're pretty important. They are left to their own devices. However, we do have predators. So we have predators that will eat squirrels.
Yeah.
So everything is just kind of in balance. They're very important for forests, and we just kind of let them.
So here's the thing. If I go outside right now, I can take a picture of a squirrel. I live in a small town next to a big city, and we have tons of old trees and squirrels and possum and raccoons and everything. I don't live in the country, but I live in a more of a town than a city. But here's what's odd, and think about this, if you have squirrels. Do you ever see baby squirrels? I never see baby squirrels, ever. Every time I see a squirrel, it's like a full-size squirrel. I never see gigantic squirrels, and I never see small squirrels. It's like they must be born, and then within like a week, they're just like they're dehydrated, and then they get hydrated, and they just blow up to full size. Am I crazy? I never see baby squirrels. I never see squirrels that are dramatically larger than other squirrels. I know. It's just an odd little thing.
Do their thing. However, the opposite is true in the UK. Y'all hate gray squirrels. And honestly, fair. So gray squirrels were introduced to the UK, and it was an absolute disaster because they basically overrun the only other type of squirrel, which is the red squirrel, of course. And of course,
What's a red squirrel?
squirrels don't really have a lot of natural predators here in the UK. You guys, no offense, killed a lot of those. So the squirrels just explode. So a lot of regulations around gray squirrels. And if you ever happen to catch one, you know what you gotta do. You cannot release it. You cannot keep it in captivity. You gotta get ready, destroy it. Yes, we've talked about that.
Here, at least in my neighborhood, my area, people kill squirrels. I don't like it. I don't kill anything. I don't hunt. Yes, I eat meat and blah blah blah. But I don't kill it myself. I just don't. Um my family does. Don't get me wrong. I've got, relatives that hunt, but and they only hunt for what they eat. They don't hunt for fun. I mean they hunt for fun, but they don't let it go to waste. They eat the meat that they kill. But here people kill them, and some people eat them. I think this is maybe a poverty kind of thing. I mean, you could eat like they have like squirrel stew. I'm sure like in Louisiana, I imagine people are eating squirrel in Louisiana or Alabama or maybe Georgia, South Carolina, that kind of people eat squirrel. I don't, but yeah, unfortunately, some people kill them because they're a nuisance. Especially like getting into bird feeders and that kind of thing. And then some people eat them, so they obviously must not be protected here. But and some people just say they're just the same as a rat. They're just a furrier rat or a cuter rat. I don't. To me, they're completely different. They're more like a cat than a rat to me. So I don't. I protect them, and I don't run over them and all that. But yeah, they're everywhere in my neighborhood.
I never imagined I would say destroy so many times in a video, but here we are. Who knew the UK was full of such weird and wonderful and unusual laws? Maybe you guys did. Maybe this is all common knowledge. It was not
No.
common knowledge to me.
Well, there you go. You learn something every day. That's what I love about the internet and YouTube and Adventures in Naps. All right, so my cat. My cat is 18 years old. I know. 18 years old. Well, coming up on her 18th birthday. We got her off the street. She was a tiny little kitten, a few days old, maybe a week old, something like that. And we've had her ever since. And she gets as much food as she wants. She can, she really is spoiled, and she deserves to be spoiled. She's old. She's over 100 years old, I think, in cat years. So, long story short, she's hanging in there. Vet can't believe it. We actually reversed all of her kidney problem. Well, not all of them, but her kidneys are better than they were a year and a half ago. And everything. So, happy story for now. But 18. So, anybody who guessed close to that, good for you. Everyone finds her, sees her, thinks she's like a kitten, a few years old, but she's not. So I found some, just real quick. Here are some of the crazy laws that are in America, and I'm not going to spend as much time as she did, obviously. I'm just going to go through them because some of them are pretty funny. In Alaska, a moose may not be viewed from an airplane. It's considered offensive to push a moose out of an airplane, and it's considered an offense to feed alcoholic beverages to a moose. Now, that's an Alaska thing. Alaska's a whole different world. And also in Alaska, you may not tie your dog to the roof of your car. In Arizona, it's against the law to hunt camels. I don't know how many camels there are in Arizona, but it can't be many. And you can get 25 years in prison for cutting down a cactus. It's also illegal for donkeys to sleep in bathtubs. In Arkansas, it's against the law for alligators to be kept in bathtubs. You can get a $500 fine in California for molesting a butterfly. It's illegal to own snails, sloths, or elephants. There's some crazy stuff. In Colorado, it's illegal to ride a horse while under the influence. Any dogs with tattoos must be reported to the police. It is illegal to educate dogs in Connecticut. Florida man. If an elephant is tied to a parking meter, the parking fee has to be paid just as if it would a vehicle having sexual relations with a porcupine is illegal. Good luck with that. It is against the law to tie your giraffe to a telephone pole or a street lamp. You may not fish while being on camelback. It's against the law to give dog whiskey. It's illegal to take a French poodle to the opera. These are real laws. This isn't some comedian. In Indiana, you can't catch a fish with your bare hands. Some people do that. In Louisiana, you may not tie an alligator to a fire hydrant. In Maryland, it's against the law to take a lion to the movies. Now, you know all these laws were made after somebody did this, right? In New Jersey, it's illegal to offer whiskey or cigarettes to any animal in a local zoo. In Oregon, you are not allowed to use canned corn for bait for fishing. In South Dakota, no horses are allowed into Fountain Inn unless they are wearing pants. Fountain Inn must be a place. Tennessee, you cannot use a lasso to catch a fish. It's also, but it is legal to gather and consume roadkill. So there's your squirrel soup, squirrel stew. Texas, it's illegal to milk another man's cow. In Wyoming, you are not allowed to take a picture of a rabbit in the month of June. I don't know. Anyway, that'll wrap it up. Great video from her as always. And I appreciate thumbs up, subscribing if you want, that'd be great. If you're new to the channel, it's anything and everything that interests me as an average middle-aged American male. That's going to include international travel with my wife, checking out other countries, learning about other countries, learning about what other people in other countries think about America, and anything else that interests me, whether it's comedy or music, photography, watches, home improvements, finances, gearing up for retirement, etc. So I appreciate you, and I will see you on the next one. Here's a couple other videos you might be interested in, and I will see you soon. Take care.